Hello everyone and welcome back to Closets Gaming. Today we are going to take a look at Asura, this top-down hardcore indie hack-and-slash game that draws heavily from Indian mythology, puts you into the shoes of a demon incarnate, and it is your mission to reclaim your kingdom from the mortals, obliterating hordes of enemies, upgrading your equipment, and picking up skills from a procedurally generated talent tree. It is available on Steam for €8.99 or a regional equivalent. I had my eyes on this game for a pretty long time. More specifically, since I played the beta, and I had a very good time doing that. So when it finally came out, I picked it up, and after playing a decent amount of time, I'm ready to do the review now. And let's start by talking about the gameplay. So, in its very core, this is your run-of-the-mill hack-and-slash isometric game, but it provides a very nice, mainly skill-based combat with large focus on dodging attacks. The attacks themselves are divided into two basic categories: attacks with your weapons and skill-based abilities. The attacks with your weapons can either be melee, ranged, or they can be magic-based, and you're always carrying around both melee and ranged or magic types of your weapons, and you can easily swap between these weapons with a single keystroke. Attacking is then done with the right click, where your movement is done through the left click, a control scheme many people will be very much used to. The strength of these attacks depends on the weapon you are currently using, and sometimes on some of the skills you have gathered by leveling up, or even by some of the items you can buy in the shops or that can be found in each level. Secondly, some of your attacks can come in form of skill abilities. Those are usually much more powerful, but also come with a drawback: a cooldown. But instead of the cooldown being based on time, here it is based on NPC kills. I suspect this is done so you can't just kite the bosses forever and kill them using purely with the skills, and while I didn't like this at first, as I played the game more, I found myself understanding this design choice more and more. Other than attacking, the main thing you will be doing is dodging. And this is done by pressing space, and it is a very important thing to do, because getting hit often means a very large punishment for you. Either you lose some health, but there are also special attacks against you. More specifically, you can get burned, which if it goes fully through will destroy one of your items, or you can get poisoned and not being able to heal for the duration, or you can even get stunned, and that, trust me, will hurt you a lot. Dodging and attacking is also fundamentally connected, because they both run at the same energy pool: stamina. Stamina is the main energy pool of Asura, and it recharges at a pretty decent rate, but if you have weapons that use a lot of it, you will find yourself being often very limited both in terms of being able to attack and being able to dodge. Other than the direct combat, there are a few mechanics that enhance the gaming experience in Asura. First, we will talk about the skill tree, which is done in a very unique way in Asura. Well, to a certain degree. You still have your skills, and you still need to level up to get them, and they still provide either an active ability or some sort of passive bonus for you as in most other games. The difference comes in the fact that with each run you never know what exactly the skills will be and in what order they will be placed in, so you can't really find that one cookie cutter build that works for you. You need to adapt in each run, giving the game an insane amount of replayability on top of the procedurally generated levels, enemies, drops, and everything else. The skills themselves are divided into 4 skill trees. One that focuses primarily on the melee combat, another one for the ranged physical combat or archery, one for magic, and last one is there for those who like their characters to be really tanky. Each of these trees then has 4 levels, and in each you can find a skill and an upgrade for that skill. On top of the ability on the skill, each skill also provides a small passive bonus based on which tree you're investing in. It's either more melee damage, more stamina, stronger elemental damage, or just more health. The second way you can improve your character is through gear, again divided into 2 basic categories. The first, and the one you will be most happy to encounter in the beginning of each level, there are weapons. There is a pretty large amount of them, and they come in common, epic, and legendary rarities, where the epic and legendary ones also provide some sort of extra effect, like a chance to stun, burn, or lifesteal. As you progress further down the levels, you will most likely already have weapons you're happy to use. You will be much more happy to find pieces of armor. At any given time, you are capable of wearing 3 different pieces of armor, more specifically shoulder, hand, and leg armor. Each of these again provides you with extra stats, and if you get really lucky and find an epic or legendary piece of armor, even an additional effect. So, how do you acquire gear in Asura? That is a good question, because it nicely ties into another not so common mechanic Asura uses. But let me first tell you about the way that is much more common in other games. Because first of all, you can find gear in chests that are around levels. But secondly, you can also loot your enemies. Well, that isn't unusual at all, you might be saying right now. But the fact that you have to decide between either getting experience points or getting loot from them definitely is. Finding the right balance between leveling up and getting gear to help you with slaying your enemies is something you will certainly need to do in Asura, and getting it right is a different experience every time. Sometimes you will want to scavenge enemies, especially whenever you're desperately looking for that healing item, so you can regain a bit of your health back. But if you are sitting on good gear and on full health, you will most likely go for the experience. Now we should talk about the enemies you will be obliterating, and as it is in most other hack and slash games, they come in a few basic varieties. The basic difference between them is that some use melee, some use ranged, and some utilize magic to try and kill you. On top of this, you will encounter enemies with the ability to poison, burn, or even stun you, and especially the ones with a stun can prove incredibly dangerous because they expose you to attacks from the rest of the enemies. So making sure you don't get hit by these enemies is essential towards your victory. And lastly, we have the bosses. These are always found near the very end of the level, and not only is their health pool much higher than of the regular enemies, they also possess some quite powerful abilities. The bosses are quite varied. Each and every one requires a different tactic to defeat, yet they always have a few things in common. The first thing they have in common is the fact that their attacks are heavily telegraphed. So if you're fighting them, keeping a good eye on their stance can allow you to defeat them much more easily. The second thing they have in common is the fact that all of them do summon minions, more precisely the opposite type than they are. So a boss that uses ranged or magic attacks will summon a melee minion, and melee bosses will summon archers or mages. The combat and all the mechanics feel really good, but especially the combat. Impactful and fast at the same time, and on top of that, it feels really skill based. And in my opinion, it not only feels skill based, it actually is. And that is such an awesome feeling whenever you manage to deal with a hard situation because you played the game well. And the amount of ways you can build your character is simply amazing. You can play as either melee, archer, or spell-wielding character and enhance the build in significant ways with the skill tree and will always have fun. Okay, so we're done with the mechanics, and it's time to look at the atmosphere building tools of Asura, and we will start with the story. First, I should probably tell you that the story isn't emphasized in Asura very much. You get a nice cutscene when you start up the game, and then wait right before you go into the dungeon. But here it is anyway. In the ancient Deva kingdom, a mighty ruler has been visited by a yogi, who prophesies dire times for the kingdom, unless a sacrifice is made to the gods. The king decides to listen to the yogi, and sends out his armies to find a suitable candidate for the sacrifice, and one day, they find a small innocent child hiding, and they pick him as the sacrifice. During the sacrifice, energies build up, until they cause a large explosion blinding everyone temporarily, and once they regain the sight, the child is gone. So they think the sacrifice was successful, but instead, the child has been taken to the demon realm, where the most powerful demons infuse him with his power, creating an even more powerful demon, you, Asura, and now you are on your journey to get revenge. So, yeah, that's the story. Now on to the graphics. Asura uses this sort of cartoony looking graphical style that honestly fits the Indian theme the game has. A lot of the game is colored towards gold, and even the rest of the colors are pretty bright and stand out a lot, making everything easy to see, which is really good for this kind of game, because if it was hard to see the enemies telegraphing their attacks, the game would not be fair. But because of its style and isometric camera, it is hard to talk about the quality of its graphic. It's more about whether you just like them or not. I personally like them very much, but you might not as much as I do. Now to the performance of the game, and I have only good things to say about it. It ran with a high frame rate and it was even playable while I was rendering a different video, and that is something you don't see very often. Plus, no bugs or crashes either. So, in conclusion, Asura is a very good contender in the heavily saturated hack and slash market. But it also provides a very unique theme and a few unique mechanics that make it stand out from the average crowd. So, if you like hack and slash games, go and pick up Asura right now. As for its price, it provides hours of fun. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you liked the video, and if you did, please consider liking it, subscribing to my channel, and comment if you have something you would like to add. See you guys later with more gaming content.